Imagine this. You wake up one morning and all of a sudden everything you try to say comes out in a different language. That's pretty much what happened to Brianna a few years ago. Listen to her story.
Different things like that would happen all the time. And then one of the other things that happened too was there was a period of time, and I can't for the life of me remember exactly how many days. I just knew it went on for a minute. It was at least like 3 days to a week of where I couldn't speak any English. Okay. I guess we're just going to call it tongues because I have no idea what language I was speaking, but I couldn't speak any English. I tried to speak English and it would come out so broken. It would come out only what God allowed for me to say would come out. That's it. Other than that, it would just be speaking another language. I mean, my family can attest to it because I remember they got on the phone with me a couple times and I was speaking another language to them and they were like, "What are you talking about?" And there's nothing I could do about it. I had absolutely no control over it. I was just speaking a whole other language. I remember I got in this car ride. It was like an Uber ride with this guy. I'm pretty sure he was Muslim, of somewhere Middle Eastern descent. And he asked me where I was from and what I was speaking. And I couldn't even tell him any of that. And he was like, "How did you learn?" And I just pointed up and said, "God," because I had no explanation for why I can't speak any English and why I had a thorough accent. And then it just stopped. Just one day it just stopped.
The only other time I've heard a story like this or similar is in the Bible. There's, I don't remember who, so I'm not a Bible scholar, but there's a guy in the Bible where God stops him from speaking. That's the only other time I've ever heard of something like this. But I have questions because I'm just very curious about what that was like. So you were trying to speak, and in your head, were you speaking the right things and it was coming out in a different language? How was it?
Yeah. So yeah, I remember like whatever I was thinking came out in another language. It was English in my head, but it would come out in another language. And I had no control. It's like God would just shut my mouth. If he didn't want me to say it, it wasn't coming out. I had absolutely no control over that. It was wild. It was a wild experience.
What did your family and the people around you think?
Oh, they thought I was nuts. They thought I was nuts, but they couldn't explain it either. They thought I was crazier and crazy and I had no control over it. But, they didn't understand it. And I was okay with that. I'm like, they're not necessarily believer. I would consider them kind of God curious outside of my father is an atheist, but they're like God curious. I think they hope there's a God, but they're not saved. So they don't understand these things. They don't understand any of it. But I knew for a fact what was going on. God just laid out a plethora of evidence to me that I wasn't crazy, so I had all the confirmation I needed. I didn't care. I'm like, it is what it is. I'm going through this with God. He's the one in control right now. So